Thought I wasn't ready. I'm always ready. Oh, I think you can jump scare me, mate. Now I'm on form. That's what I'm saying.
Are you sure you'll be all right?
It's just a debriefing.
Don't go in.
They're not going to make me disappear, and they're not pinning anything on me. I got Graham and a lot of the guys.
Doubt.
I might actually get out of this with an honorable discharge.
Oh, no trust, dude.
In return for your silence, no doubt.
Uh-huh.
Having the inside scoop on the
He's had a haircut.
Having the inside scoop on the administration's own bay of mutated pigs is definitely an advantage.
Uh-huh. Or they all want to get rid of you.
It's like you're blackmailing the government in a patriotic way.
That's the magic word, innit?
Ooh, you push the button on the microwave that says popcorn?
Actually, I pushed defrost, but Joyce was there in the clinch.
You guys have fun tonight.
Oh, Joyce is here. Nice.
Thank you.
It was nice meeting you.
Oh, no.
Finally.
No. Yeah. What do you mean? Okay. Sorry, I'm seeing a lot of, like... It could be nothing. It could be nothing. Is Riley dying?
It was very nice meeting you.
It was nice meeting you.
Uh-huh.
Finally.
Uh-huh.
Do you notice how pointedly I said finally?
I did, yeah. It's a good point, to be fair. Been a lot going on though, Joyce.
You even slept since?
Still feel a little bit too wired.
Fair.
That was powerful. Don't think I could sleep.
Are we all okay? Is something happening to the gang? I did talk about repercussions for what happened last episode. I was thinking about Buffy, but well, all of them were involved.
And I'm putting in a preemptive bid for Apocalypse Now, huh?
Did you get anything less Heart of Darknessy?
Heart of Darkness, Apocalypse. I don't like the foreshadowing, man. Okay? I've read Heart of Darkness. I know what an apocalypse is.
Apocalypse Now is a gay romp.
I actually haven't seen it.
These puppies should last us all night.
Joycey boy, what we doing? Yeah. The last time you see them all of that. Sorry, I'm getting carried away. I am. Focusing on Willow. Are we dreaming? Oh, there she is. Let's go.
I think it's strange.
Now the episode's started.
I think I should worry that we haven't found her name.
The cat?
Miss Kitty?
Yeah. Oh, come on!
You think she'd let us know her name by now?
I would destroy you with cuddles, mate. That's what I'm saying. Also, the slow-mo with the cat. What are we doing? What are we? It's all very serious. I don't like that. Can we lighten up? Do you know what I mean? Can we just lighten the f*** up?
You think she'd let us know her name by now?
She will. She's not all grown yet.
She's not all grown yet. You'd think she'd let us know her name by now. Almost a little footnote to the entire season, right? This identity, who you are. What is that, right? Her name. Let us know her name. Let us know who she is. Who's she gonna be? Right? This little kit in the symbology. Strong. The final episode of this season about identity. Where are we all gonna come down? Who are we gonna be?
You're not worried?
I never worry here.
Oh, come on. Beautiful.
You don't know everything about me.
Tell me.
Have you told me your real name?
Oh, you know that.
Okay. What do we not know? You did the thing, you took the thing from the spell ages ago. What was that about?
We'll find out, you know.
About what?
About you.
I don't have time to think about that. You know I have all this homework to finish.
Okay.
Are you gonna finish in time for class?
Oh, a little drawing.
But you've never taken drama before.
Okay. Both of them speaking as if in a trance.
You might miss something important.
Drama. Why drama?
And there's something out there.
Right. Hyena. Are they back? Ah! Billy. Billy. I'm feeling Billy, you know. What is that? The wilderness.
There.
Something out there. Mystery. In the brush. Stalking. Yeah. Okay.
Hey,
Hey guys.
I heard you're taking drama.
Yeah. Us here.
Sometimes I think about two women doing a spell,
I bet you do.
and then I do a spell by myself.
Cool. Alright. Didn't miss this, Xander. Drama, acting. What's the truth, right? Who are you? Talking about identity. Almost trying to... I don't know what this episode's going for yet, but, you know, the onset of the idea of drama, acting class, mixed in with this theme of identity. I think so often we can find that we're acting, you know. It's really hard. I talked about it all season in one form or another. You know, go back to the initiative, government, American ideals, patriotism, all of these things that, you know, are so easily absorbed into your personality, right? Who you are. What's the truth? How much of it is acting almost? You know, it's kind of almost this hunt for your true self. She's looking out the window. What's out there? Your true self? Is it a case of letting them in? Who is your true self, right? We've seen Willow flip-flop a little bit this season in terms of who she is. So I do wonder, right? It's interesting that out of all of them that we went into the minds of, the dream, is this a dream? We'll see. It was Willow. Kind of a very tumultuous character in terms of where she's gone this season, where, you know, I'm talking about the spells, the unhealthy aspect to her character in regards to witchcraft, not wanting to deal with her emotions, you know, wanting the quick fix. Then we've also got a huge, you know, revelation in terms of her identity in respect to Tara, and, you know, coming to terms with being gay or being bi. Like, they've all in their own way been changing and discovering themselves this season. There's a strong argument, I feel like, to be made that Willow's gone through some of the biggest, you know, in terms of who she is and what she's been dealing with in certain ways.
Oh my god, the place is packed. Everybody's here.
Buff.
There's a production?
Oh no, you don't know your lines. I've had this dream.
Isn't this the first class?
Damn.
Well, you showed up later. You'd have a better part. I'm cowboy guy.
Uh-huh.
Your costume is perfect. Nobody's gonna know the truth, you know, about you.
Costume?
Okay.
You're already in character. I should have done that.
Drama class. We haven't even rehearsed.
I showed up on time, so I got to be cowboy guy.
It's really early to be putting on a play.
Really early to be putting on a play. Almost this concept of, you know, when you're growing up, all of these things that we are decided for us so early, right? I mean, I've talked about it, I feel like, not necessarily, I don't know, in a video somewhere, God, I've made so many at this point. We decide everything so early, don't we? You know, what we're supposed to be in life, what job we're supposed to do. We decide at 18 if we want to go into higher education, university. Yeah, you can do that later in life. It's harder, though, in a lot of ways. I've talked about this idea of, you know, more so in Angel, I suppose this show obviously is dealing with high school kids. Angel more so dealing with adults, or those in the adult world at least. I've talked about in that show this idea of changing, growing, always, you know, deciding who you want to be. You know, it never really stops. It doesn't have to just be when you're growing up at school. It can be when you're an adult too, and when you're older and older and older and older, you know, and so on. Funny Riley, I got here first, so I got to be the cowboy. It's like, yeah, almost this symbolizing of an example of a person that goes into a career or chooses perfectly, and all of the stars align and they get into that job that it turns out they love. They find it rewarding, and that particular vocation is highly dependent on when you get into it as to, you know, where you might be in 5 years time, 10 years time, whatever, right? If you get into that later, perhaps you can't, I don't know, get into that kind of a job. It depends, right? I know I'm talking in vagaries, but we're talking about concepts here, I suppose, right? Riley, I got here first, and now I'm a cowboy. It's luck of the draw a lot of the time, you know. Sometimes people work out really early what they want to do, and they just kind of get lucky, right? Are we going to get this idea, perhaps, of someone going into something, thinking it's what they want, and then finding out maybe later down the line, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years later, you've kind of committed to it, and actually, it's not really what I wanted to do anyway. And now it's harder to change, right? Almost, I don't know, are we going to get this episode some idea of challenging this concept of society in a general sense, right? We've had it in regards to, I think, with the initiative and Adam in terms of the US government, in particular, you know, the US culture in particular, but I think this stuff is applicable to life in general. You know, what is Willow experiencing right now? She got here, it's her first day, right? And everything's been lumped on her. It's a production. It's almost this simulating this thing of going into something new. Everyone else is kind of here already doing their thing, and you just have to catch up. And it's harder.
I just think it's really early to be putting on a play.
It was that line. I just think it's really early to be putting on a play. I just think it's really early that we are deciding all of these things for our children so early when it might not be. They're not even developed yet. It's crazy, isn't it? Really. Oh, it's almost when she was in the dream. She's still in the dream, sorry. When she was looking out the window. And it's like something's out there. stalking me. It's almost this thing, this promise of all of the yous that never were, right? If we're talking about this concept of, you know, making all of these decisions when we're 18, a kid, how are we supposed to know? If we had a better system around us that actually, you know, accommodated perhaps taking a bit more time or trying something, it not working out, not being what you want and trying something else. How many people are kind of shoehorned into something and then it's so difficult in certain ways, and you can think of, God, a plethora of different reasons for why that might be, as to why someone might not be able to change off that path, off that course, and they just don't. It's almost that death of all of the yous that could have been if you had a better system around you that accommodated being able to change your mind, right? Her looking out the window, something stalking, almost this feeling of. And then, you know, the kiddie that we've just had the conversation about who is the kiddie? What's her name? She's not told us yet. So this symbolic presence in that scene of identity. Who, right? Then she looks out the window, something stalking, identity stalking you. What is that? Then it's immediately followed by this scene and this concept that I'm talking about. And God, I might be way off the mark, we'll see. But combine that with that previous scene and everything that's symbolized in that scene. And it does slightly all come together, doesn't it? In, like I say, this, because we don't see it. She looks out the window, it's in the underbrush. You don't actually see it. And that's so beautiful, poignant, and painful when you think about all of these possible paths that our kids, us, are missing out on. And as a result of that, all of the kind of identity that we might be missing out on in ourselves, because our society might not present us with the foundation for truly finding out who we are.
All right, everyone. Pay attention.
Giles?
Now, everyone that Willow's ever met is out in that audience, including all of us.
Oh yeah. Everyone she's ever met, so possibility. All of the people she's ever met, almost this idea of her life condensed into one moment here. Begs the question, is this it? Almost introducing this idea of, these are all the people you've ever met. Introducing this idea of the boundaries of that. Or is it going to go into some hopeful theme of, well, these are all the people you've ever met right now, so far. And are we going to go on to, well, you have the potential for blah, 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 right?
Now, stay in character. Remember your
energy,
especially the music.
Oh, I don't like that. Do not like that at all.
The audience wants to find you, strip you naked and...
Okay.
Hide. Stop that.
Sorry, I was completely on the spider demon.
The audience wants to find you, strip you naked and eat you alive, so hide.
The audience wants to find you, strip you naked, eat you alive, and that's almost the world we live in certain ways. I feel like, you know, we've been talking about it all season, and you know, all show, actually, the world can be a mean place. We've seen Buffy go through things that she shouldn't have as a kid. But, you know, this conversation of, you have to grow up sometime. You have to deal with it. You have to find ways.
Props?
No. Props? Yes. It's not that.
Oh, no.
You hold them, you touch them, use them.
Props?
No. Props? Yes.
That's so funny. Patriarchy. Must I say more?
Props?
No. Props? Yes.
And also, and sorry, Vampire Lady, bless her, Giles' shoulder, kind of just there, he's talking, he's trying to focus. She's almost this annoying presence, right? Just kind of nipping at him, right? And I suppose, how are women seen in the patriarchy, right? We just had that demonstration there of not listening to the woman. Man says the exact same thing. Yes, you're correct. She's wrong, though, you know? And what is she doing right now? Kind of just being a bit of a pest to Giles. Kind of annoying. If I was him, I'd be like, you should get off me. We have before us almost a scale model of society in a certain way.
Subterfuge. That's very annoying.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Giles, yeah. But she is being represented in a way that I think women are quite often perceived in the patriarchy, right? Something that this show talks about and deals with quite often.
Props? Yes.
That's so funny.
Very annoying.
Yeah.
Out there, lie like dogs and have a wonderful time.
Lie like dogs.
I know this will be the best production of Death of a Salesman we've ever done. Stop it.
Death of a salesman. Salesman. Selling stuff. Right. Capitalism. I'm so sorry. There will one day be a video where I don't mention it. And what is that, right? And what was I talking about last episode? This idea of Adam, what he represents, Buffy, the gang community coming together to quash that, you know, revolution almost. In the sense that I was talking about, this play, Death of a Salesman, death of this idea of constantly being bombarded with, Capitalism, economy, consumerism, the death of that, right? That is the play. Everything happening right now, and I mean, we'll see where it goes, but it seems to be a scale model of society. American society still. Specifically, I'd say, too.
And if Willow can stop stepping on everyone's cues...
The stepping on cues mentioned here is very much this idea of Willow being intelligent. She so often will be that voice in the room, and in this patriarchy that's not allowed, because a man should be the clever one, right? A man should be the one to say it, and yet she says it so often, thereby stepping on everyone's cues. How you feeling, dude? Is whatever stalking... Silence. Is whatever stalking her, almost her true self, the thing that is going to allow her to break out of this and be her own person? We'll see. So much noise, right? It's all just noise. Almost the silence there kind of putting into stark contrast how loud it all is. And how loud is it, right? It drowns out your identity a lot of the time because, God, like Giles said, you got to go out there and lie a lot of the time. How many of us mask in certain scenario situations we're not allowed almost, or we, you know, I think there's this idea in storytelling about being a shapeshifter, not literally, but depending on the people that you're with, the surroundings that you are in, the scenarios, right? Work, the gym, you go to a club, when you're around family, when you're around friends, when you're around a partner, you know, a lover, put on all these faces, you're almost different people. You know, is that an aspect almost, let's talk about it philosophically, is that an aspect of inherently humanity, or is that an aspect of the societies that we've built around us that kind of promote that, right? If there was an ease of you're allowed to make mistakes, you're allowed to be goofy, you're allowed to be cringe, you're allowed to be all of these words that we've applied that kind of stop us from being perhaps our true selves in certain scenarios around certain people, right? And, you know, we have that caveat, I suppose, of social nicety that I think is part of perhaps inherent humanity, right? You know, we're going back towards, I suppose, tribalism and the idea of and you know, making connection, and how do we do that? You know, social nicety, right? How much of that is baked into humanity, I suppose, at a certain level, society, right? We make these societies as we do. I'd say it's a bit of both, right? I'd say it's a little bit constructed by us in the society we've chosen to make around us in the way that we've chosen to make it. At the same time, I'd say there's a certain aspect of humanity that is just inherently foundationally shapeshifters. Because, I mean, that's baked into humanity, right? Each person individually is different from person to person to person to person to person, right? Everyone's different. You're not necessarily... It depends on the kind of person you are. Let's give an example. You're the kind of person that wants to get on with everybody, then you encounter someone who is a little bit more introverted. You change your attitude, perhaps, or the way that you are interacting with them to make them feel more comfortable. You're around someone... Same person's around someone that's extroverted, a bit louder, you find that you can perhaps be a little bit louder yourself, kind of match their tone, and that means that you are, from an outside perspective, almost acting like a different person than you would. But that's just, again, social nicety, right? But that's one kind of person. Then you'll get another kind of person that isn't that bothered about getting on with everybody and will just be, this is who I am, and I am the same person around everybody, right? There is always going to be inherently an element of shape-shifting to humanity. I do think, sorry, I am just talking it through. Let me know what you think down below. Just to summarise, because I have meandered a little bit. Yeah, playing around with this idea. How much of our society has made us this way in an unhealthy aspect is what I'm getting at. In terms of not being allowed to be who we are. Is that what's happening? Or is it, like I say, a foundational aspect of humanity that will always be there regardless of the society we have? Right, that's the question, sorry, that I'm, to put it in plainer words, talking about. Like I said, I think it's a bit of both. I think the society that we have and that we, you know, have in 2000s, I think both society is very different to what it was back then, but I think in the same way, I think we could absolutely do better to make spaces safer for people to be more themselves, true to themselves, right? Make mistakes, make silly jokes, be a bit goofy. I think everyone could be a little bit less judgmental in certain ways. I think social media has made our generation and this reality, this present that we are living in right now, all the worse for that. You know, everything is judged at all times. There's a camera around, you know, there's people filming. You don't want to be filmed, right? Are you on camera right now? Or are you going to act a certain way too? Anyway, sorry, waffled on. Bit of discussion, I suppose. I think it's interesting though. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. If we're not, hey, hopefully you got something out of that, I don't know. So I don't think it's as easy as making a sweeping statement of our society is just not good enough. I think our society, like I say, is always going to have that element of shape-shifting in it. Could it be, I suppose, a little bit more enabling to our true selves, right? I think so. So like I say, sorry, that's why I got onto it, because the silence here is almost this harsh contrast to the noise of before, you know? All of these voices, you know, you almost can't think. It makes you notice how loud it was. And I think that actually, I mean, that's literally what got me thinking about what I was thinking about, right?
I've made a little space for the cheese slices.
You what, mate? Sorry. Hang on, wait.
I've made a little space for the cheese slices.
That's what I thought you said, yeah. Beautiful, well done. What's he? What's that? What have I just said? A little weird. That's a little weird. Odd. Eccentric, one might say. And what did you think when you first watched that? Honestly, genuinely, not a trick question. Were you a little bit perturbed? Were you a little bit like, oh, that's weird? Oh, I don't like that, he's creepy. But what is that actually, truly, on a human level? Bless him. Clearly into cheese, likes his little order. Put a nice little section. Admittedly, mate, you could have put him like on something, some paper towels or something. Unless he's cleaned the desk, we don't know. He didn't actually let us know. That's fair. But what is it? It's just... all that actually is a guy interested in cheese, ordering it, and actually being a little helpful. Here, look, I've made some food for people. Made's a little bit of a strong word, but you know what I'm saying. You want some cheese? I've got a cheese slice for you. There you go. You know, that is wholesome and pure. And yeah, it's a little bit kooky and eccentric and to, I think, a lot of people's perspective, weird, but it's not, right? And I love that I just talked about this idea of how much of society is shape-shifting and how much of it is kind of clamping down on allowing us to be the people we want to be, right? Because that guy with his cheese, how long until he hears someone go, oh, Ian, he's a bit weird, isn't he? Him and his cheese in the corner, what's that about? He just came out to offer people, you know, a little cheese board. Not got a lot of variety, that's fair, but hey, that's okay. How long until society people whittle Ian, I don't know his name, whittle him down until he stops doing that, you know? How much is society allowing us to be the little weirdos we want to be? Because god damn it, be a little weirdo, mate, honestly. It's not a bad thing. It's just a word we attach to people that are a little bit outside of the norm, right? So like I say, what was your first reaction to that? I imagine a lot of people's reaction was that is a little weird, but it's not. That's what society has just taught you to think based on someone doing something a little bit out of the ordinary. Free Ian, that's all I'm saying, mate.
I think they're really not doing things in the proper way, and now I'm in a...
Oh yeah.
Why is there a cowboy in Death of a Salesman anyway?
You don't understand yet, do you?
Sorry.
My whole family's out.
I'm so sorry. I gotta stop pausing.
Things aren't going very well.
Not going very well.
I think they're really not doing things in the proper way, and now...
They're really not doing things in the proper way. She's almost this person that is hyper aware of all of the makeup and all of the building blocks of society, and she's looking straight at them in ways that is making her go, what? Why did you build it this way?
Is there something following me?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't like the look of it, dude. Or is the thing following her almost going to make her conform to it, right? Almost this thing nipping at your heels at all times, whittling away at identity, your true identity almost. Society catching up with you and just assimilating you.
The play's gonna start soon, and I don't even know my lines.
The play's already started. That's not the point.
Yeah, the play's gonna start soon. I don't know my lines. What is that? Right, if we're expanding on this idea of what this is right now, if this is life, society, how to be, I don't know my lines. Life is like that. You don't know everything. Not everything's going to be written out for you, and that's okay, but we're so often taught to fear that. So what is that, right? Why do we have this around us, this society, in the way that we do? Because people like to be told, well, this is what you should do. The idea of an answer is always more appealing than a mystery to a lot of people. It's because it's easier, especially to a young person. You say to a young person, well, what do you want to do? Right? What are they going to answer? How do you possibly, right? There's too much of a breadth of possibility. This is why it's so unhealthy in certain ways to ask that of young people. Whereas if you have an adult going, well, you've got three options. You've got this, this, or this. It's like, Well, I like the middle option the best. Well, let's go for that then. As a kid, why would you ever go like, You have adult figures telling you that these are good for you before you've even been taught or learned who you are or what you might like. Willow saying here,
What should I do? The play's gonna start soon and I don't even know my lines.
the play's going to start soon, I don't even know my lines. Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? But you don't need to know your lines, you just need to do something, man. Tara.
Play's already started. That's not the point.
Play started, that's not the point, mate. Why do we have this system around us? Because if we have inbuilt train tracks to life, leading us from child to teen to adult, that is easier and more comforting than being told, hey, the world is yours, do whatever you want with it. Even if that is actually better for you in certain ways. It's almost, I suppose, asking this question, how much hand-holding do we need to do through life? Because there's got to be some guidance. But I suppose it's that open guidance of like, well, what are your interests? Let's sit you down, let's figure it out, right? As opposed to being told, okay, these are your options. I think it's interesting that it's obviously in the 2000s, and I think 26 years on now, I think, my generation, we had a lot more possibility growing up. I think there was still some element of, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. I think that's probably still the case now. But I know that I had a lot more open to me in terms of possibility and choice than my parents did. I think that's a good thing.
Why, hello, little lady. I hold those milk pails for you.
Why, thank you.
So interesting. Sorry, look at this. Look on screen right now. What have we got? Can I hold these milk pails? What is she doing? She's holding milk, right? Come on. Symbolizing mother, right? What are Buffy and, Vampire Girl kind of symbolizing here? Buffy lounging as she is in what, kind of a skimpy little black dress, presented as sexy. Vampire Girl here holding milk. What is that? It's almost this symbolizing of women in the patriarchy. They're either sexy or they are mothers. That's their entire value in this system, the choices that they have. Whereas what did Riley do? He just got here early and he got to be exactly what he wanted to be. I got to be the cool little cowboy.
I've come looking for a man, a salesman.
Uh-huh.
I'm starting to wonder about you. The real you.
The real you. And there's almost, let's just kind of dispense with all of what I'm talking about for a second. There seems to be a heavy theme of like Willow coming out publicly, not just privately, to her friends.
What else could I expect from a bunch of low-rent, no-account hoodlums like you?
Oh my god.
Your whole sex, throw them in the sea for all I care.
Oh my god, look at this. And again, this representation, this stereotype of women in society. They're either nagging at you or they're crying.
With your groping and spitting all groin, no brain, 3 billion of you passing around the same worn-out urge. With your sales.
And yet at the same time as we have that representation of the duality of how women are perceived so often in the patriarchy, right? From this perspective of an unhealthy masculinity. Either nagging or crying. God, what a burden to society. This constant reduction of women to these very specific definitions, right? Constantly. And yet what is Buffy as her character saying here? She's got a point. Everything she's saying, absolutely valid. But what's Riley and his character doing? Not really listening, probably. Seems that way. Buffy here is representing kind of the fighting against that, right? Saying this is all you do as men. You just go around groping, spitting. What was it?
Spitting all groin, no brain, 3 billion of you.
All groin, no brain.
The same worn-out urge.
Passing around the same old worn-out urge, yeah. And
with your sales.
With your sales. Yeah. So obsessed, right? In the same way, I think, Buffy and her lines there, identifying, I think, so how narrow the definition of man has been as well, right? The patriarchy, I've talked about it before, but it's not good for men either. Because what does that do? It limits what men are allowed to do or should do in, this society. So from the other perspective as well, it's just demonstrating how limiting, this, Willow looking around. This doesn't make sense looking at how it's built, whatever she said. Why? Dude, I'm not even kidding. I don't know how long the video's been so far. I got 52 minutes. I'm 10 minutes into the episode. This is actually kind of tragic. I'm so sorry.
Tara, okay, this really is...
Okay, beautiful. Spike.
Will! Buffy!
Oh, actual Buffy. Is there some...
Stay low.
interesting, no.
I don't know what's after me.
You must have done something.
Huh?
Almost this thing of like, this aspect that we've seen to Willow of playing second fiddle this season. Buffy coming in, saving the day. Willow having to be saved almost. Her line there, you've done something, you did something, you did. This kind of maybe complex of insecurity that Willow's got a little bit in terms of her place, right? Which is what? It's an aspect to her identity she needs to figure out.
I never do anything. I'm very seldom naughty. And the play was starting.
Play is long over.
Uh-huh.
Why are you still in costume?
And this is just my outfit.
Willow, everybody already knows. Take it off.
Why? Who do you think she is? It's almost kind of, I wonder what the episode's going to come down on, actually, and how Willow's going to come out of this. Because it's almost this thing of like, that's a costume. Willow insisting, no, it's not. This is who I am, right? Buffy kind of almost trying to say here, no, that's not who you are. Take it off. What are we going towards? This idea of Willow actually finding some individuality, or Willow perhaps moving more towards some element of conformity? What's her true outfit?
I need it.
That's better.
Uh-huh.
It's much more realistic.
Naked.
Oh my god, it's...
Right.
I tried to warn you.
Huh. No, so people trying to strip her of her choices to dress how she wants, be who she wants, you know, trying to move away from the kind of high school bookish girl nerd image feel that she was kind of shoehorned into by her peers, right? Something that I think she was, as we're seeing, really self-conscious about. We've seen it this season too. But it's interesting, right? She moved away from that. She's dressing how she wants. Is it truly? I wonder. Or is it embracing to some extent the bookish girl that she was? And was it the peer pressure or the judgment that she got when she was that person that made her move away from it? Did she want to move away from it truly? Or is who she is some combination of both of them, style-wise too? Again, it's just this arraying this question of, Willow, who are you, mate? Who are you? Which one is you? Or are you both? Because that's okay too.
Oh my god, it's like a tragedy.
Because what are we getting? They're all making fun of her for this. Is that what moved her away from it? While she in herself wanted to dress like this and be like this. This representation now of everything that I was talking about before. The cheese man too, right? Being our true selves. How quickly are we bullied out of being who we want to be because of judgment? I think that is definitely an aspect to society that is not necessarily inherent to a culture. That's a choice somewhere down the line, and if that exists, we need to unpick that, you know. I'd say nowadays we're doing better than we were back then, for sure. In terms of that, I think, you know, we're breaking down barriers in terms of, you know, the clothes that people are allowed to wear, right? More men are openly wearing makeup or, you know, nail polish. We're starting to appreciate or talk about more in society this idea of clothes are just fabric. You know, you go back a few hundred years, men were wearing tights. You know, now if men wear tights, they're lambasted as being what? Gay? Feminized? God damn it, guys, it's just fabric. That's what we're getting here. At least that concept.
Oh my god, it's like a tragedy.
Watching this back, I am struck with the prophetic element that becomes more obvious to these dreams later, and how this line implies there's some tragedy to come for Willow. Considering all I've spoken about with her this season, and how I've wondered at the possibility of this to me rings very interesting.
It's exactly like a Greek tragedy. There should only be Greeks.
Do love a Greek, to be fair, yeah.
My book report. This summer I read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Okay. The choice made of the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is interesting too. This concept of stepping into a whole new world that holds this power, or the imbuing of certain power, strikes a very prevalent chord with Willow, and my suspicions about her witchy shenanigans in future going a bit off the rails. Or perhaps some touching on Christian allegory. Either way, interesting choice.
This book has many themes.
Whoa, werewolf? Is it her? Some kind of, hairy. Oh. Okay. Is this a dream? Is it a spell? I do have to remember, despite feeling that I am almost towards the end of the episode, we are 10 minutes in.
We gotta take that hill. Damn this war.
I have to say, I really feel Apocalypse Now is overrated.
Oh, yeah.
No, it gets better. I remember that it gets better.
Yeah.
What's her deal?
Oh, I'm beginning to understand this now. It's all about the journey, isn't it?
Okay, you're going to notice a lighting change. That is because this is post-edit. Tyler, hello, how you doing? I was writing out some slides with some voiceover, and honestly, it got too long that I just thought this was a better way of doing it. So I'm essentially going to be reading off the script that I've written. Giles's line, it's all about the journey, right? That's where this came from. So I get to it a little later in terms of Xander's dream and masculinity, but Giles's line here is interesting because masculinity has walked this idea of the journey. Later, we have this concept of always moving forward that dials down harder on this idea. Ordinarily paying attention to the journey rather than the end goal is typically seen as good, but in this world of unhealthy masculinity, it's always moving at the expense of achieving anything. Never settling, never having a goal, always moving without purpose because you don't have to think so hard about that. This world is made for you and that's what's bred into you, and I think we see in Xander this example of masculinity where the hallmarks of that structure are absent. Lack of a nurturing father figure and absence of popularity, lower than average success with women. When masculinity is confined to this rigid structure, the idea of the journey doesn't work because the journey becomes miserable, and you have swathes of men depressed because they're not succeeding in all the ways they've been taught make you a man. At the same time, we have this dichotomy of the world is made for you and you don't have to try as hard, while conditioning you into this place where you're not developing yourself, which means if that mold doesn't fit you, you haven't developed a sense of identity while being unequipped to identify that, because who's there to tell you? It's a system that's so insidious because it exists within you in a way that goes unnoticed unless you have someone to either point it out and pull you out, or you work it out for yourself. It's expected that things are just going to work out because that's the promise in this masculine culture. Women are to be slept with, which dehumanizes them into this appendage of your own pleasure rather than a living, breathing human. Money is to be gained in ever increasing and disgusting amounts, and unspoken respect is to be earned in this shadow society of men through stoicism and intensity, while presenting yourself as an unfeeling golem wrapped in a suit. If you fall short in any of these fields, you're taught that you're lesser, a failure, and men feel this even if they don't understand where it comes from. We see that in Xander in this dream. You're not naturally equipped as a man to disentangle all of this because to all intents and purposes this is normal, and it's made to feel normal. Once you're all the way down that path, you have to walk all the way back to unpick it all, and even then the shadow of that path lingers in you. It's societal cruelty disguised as some epic journey with the only destination being depression. So this rigid structure of masculinity means that men live by this. You're measured by your masculinity as per the things I've listed previously, which means that anything outside of that, if it's perceived to reduce your score, is automatically bad. You're not allowed to cry. You can't back down from a fight, you can't lose a fight, you can't appear anywhere close to things associated socially as gay, because as we've established, women and sleeping with them is a great height to be achieved, as well as gay men being perceived as more feminine because they more typically can display traits associated with femininity. This results in rampant homophobia. As a result, finding someone attractive is automatically, in this world, about having sex with them, which has a whole host of problems regarding intimacy issues associated with it, because when the orgasm is the focus and the only goal, emotional intimacy is absent. True care can often also be absent, and sex quickly becomes stale because to a man this isn't truly fulfilling either, and as a result they seek to achieve that first high associated with being sexually intimate for the first time with someone they find attractive. And in this world of masculinity, the only way now to achieve that is to have sex with someone else. The only way to get rid of that staleness is to change up the partner, because the sex with that partner has become so samey because they've made it that way. When the sex is superficial, men are predisposed to wander, and it results in self-sabotaging a relationship even if they do find one. It's a perpetuating cycle because they don't perceive themselves as having done anything wrong, or they don't know why they're bored and want to cheat, or they blame the woman for being boring in bed when in the first place the stale aspect to proceedings was introduced due to this issue with intimacy through unhealthy masculinity introduced by the man. I don't get it twisted, by the way. I'm talking in a very focused manner on one subject, and these aren't the only reasons for the things I'm talking about, and it's not always on the man. But this is the problem with this culture of masculinity as it relates to sex. This obsession with sleeping with as many people as possible also results in transphobia, and content warning for such before we continue. No. Dude. When a man finds a trans woman attractive without knowing she's trans, confusion ensues. Why? Finding a person that presents as feminine as attractive isn't wrong if that's what you like. No one's tricking you if you later find out she has a penis, but this perceived accusation that you've been tricked into saying you find someone you perceive as a man because of the genitals they possess attractive results, because of this, in a horrific amount of anger and in a lot of cases hate as a result. The trans women in question are living their lives apart from you and presenting themselves the way they want, and these sorts of men are coming in and applying their pervasive masculine culture onto them in a way that not only dehumanizes the woman into a sexual object, but denies her identity when it's found out she's trans because of some perceived societal embarrassment. To those men, let's solve this right now. You're allowed to find a trans woman attractive. It does not make you gay. And you are allowed to say she's hot while also saying you're not into penis. Easy. So you see how one aspect of this idea of masculinity, as we've seen in Xander, results in not only confusion as to why things are going wrong, not working out, or you feel belittled or hard done by, or not succeeding, but also how it can result in a lot of hate as well. We see an element of this in Xander's dream a little later too, in regard to Anya, Willow and Tara, as well as Giles and Spike, but this is the framework for that conversation here. This is so insidious because it's easy to identify if men are taught to examine their feelings and work out why they feel a certain way. But as I've discussed, a focal part of this type of masculinity is specifically ignoring, tamping down and pushing aside their feelings. It's a self-defeating existence that maintains itself because it's baked into the foundations of this masculinity. Okay.
Hey.
No. What are we doing?
Hey, Joyce. Mrs. Summers.
Oh, is this Santa's dream? He woke up. And what do we have on the screen? I haven't seen the movie, I'm so sorry. That would probably help at this point. But what do we have? We had an army guy. Very much Xander coded, isn't it? What did he say?
We gotta take that hill.
We gotta keep going, man. We gotta take that hill. He kind of locks in. Interested. You know, this idea of masculinity. Kind of hitting all the hallmarks of, yeah, that's the guy you want to be. You know, kind of a little dirty. Got a gun in your hand, gotta take that hill. Attaching to masculinity, this idea of violence, physical competence, strength attached to physical strength. Very stereotypical idea of masculinity. Xander locks in. Giles says,
I really feel Apocalypse Now is overrated.
Overrated, right? Yeah, not so great. Not almost poking fun at that idea of masculinity that Xander seems so interested in, as we know he is.
No. It gets better.
No, it gets better. I insist. It gets better. This is good, Giles. I remember that it gets better. Almost trying to stepping outside for a little bit, being like, no. It goes somewhere. Almost question, does it, or is that all it is? How empty actually is it, Xander? Perhaps coming to some conclusion that.
Want some corn?
Butter flavor?
New car smell.
Cool.
Yeah, that confused me a little bit at first too, but no, new car smell. Again, something that I think can be stereotypically associated with something that men just like, right? Football, war, and cars. That new car smell. Yeah, I'm all over that, mate. Yeah, sorry. It's kind of a bit of an illusion because I felt like we were close to the end than we were right at the beginning, dude. I assume we're going to go into each of their dreams, and I feel like it seems like a nice little capstone to this season, going into each of them, their identity. You know, all of these dreams kind of representing the battles that they have gone through this season. Willow, I think the coming out, right? Xander, all of these ideas of what he thinks masculinity should be, not perhaps measuring up to them in the ways that he thinks he should. Is that going to get challenged too? Joyce comes out, almost this childhood dream of the older woman, the good-looking older woman coming onto you, tempting you.
Mrs. Summers?
Every young boy's dream, right?
Anyway, they all left a while ago.
You know, a man's always after
Conquest?
A man's always after conquest, yeah.
I'm a conquistador.
Are you? Red.
And comfort?
She's wearing red.
I'm a conquistador.
Hang on.
You sure it isn't comfort?
She's not even... So funny. You hear the words, but she's not speaking. She's not actually speaking. Almost says to me of he's not really listening. He's hearing what he wants to hear. She's not speaking. Almost this idea, right? This unhealthy aspect to masculinity of men don't truly listen to women. They don't need to say anything. A man will just hear what he wants to hear.
You sure it isn't comfort?
I'm a comfortador also.
It's interesting. This implies Xander either sees himself as a comforter or wants to be seen that way. Someone people see as safe and comforting even if he isn't always. This isn't Joyce's opinion, as I think her lips not moving signifies it's what he wants to hear from her in this moment. I think the fact that this isn't what she's saying implies this fact that he doesn't always necessarily measure up that way in reality. At least not yet.
I do know the difference. I've learned about boys.
Yeah.
That's cool about you.
Almost infantilized Joyce there. She's an adult woman and she's talking like a young girl. I've learned about boys. That's not how an adult woman speaks, necessarily. Almost this idea of how men see adult women, right? Not as adult women, infantilizing them as, you know, not capable, as you so often see through this lens of masculinity, right?
It's very late. Would you like to rest for a while?
Again.
Yeah.
Her lips not actually moving, but he's hearing what he wants to hear. Almost like I say, this thing of taking autonomy from the woman.
Gonna go to the bathroom first.
Don't get lost.
Don't get lost on this very simple journey to the bathroom. Okay. Or looking at your penis. Because what? Taking notes, looking at it, measuring it, because what, to men their penis is everything. So much attached to it, you know. Does it look right? Is it big enough?
That's not the way out.
Okay. That's Spike.
There you are.
In the sun. Ah, yeah. More obviously now, the woman in Buffy playing with the sand, infantilized.
Hey, there you are.
The men on the swings in suits, you know, almost the big boy play area. These two representations, men, women, how they're seen, how they're dressed.
Are you sure it's us you were looking for?
What are you looking for, Xander?
Giles here is going to teach me to be a watcher. Says I got the stuff.
Yeah.
Spike's like a son to me.
Yeah. Yeah, what are men if not their father figure? Or a father figure if not father, right? Got the stuff, so vague, right? It doesn't necessarily mean anything. All it means is you're a man, and I want to shape you in my image. The things that young boys are afforded when they're younger, right? Guardianship more so. An open door into this world, this adult world. I'm speaking more generally here, but I think how it relates to Xander, he's seeing here something it seems he's probably always wanted but never had in a father figure that loves him and believes in him and wants to help him succeed. Perhaps even specifically desiring Giles to have fulfilled some of that role.
I was into that for a while, but I got other stuff going on.
Yeah? Mm-hmm.
You gotta have something. Gotta be always moving forward.
Like a shark.
Gah. Yeah, that's his idea. Have you? Gotta always be moving forward. We've talked about this before in that scene where Anya was talking to him about, no, you're okay where you are. You've got a girlfriend that loves you. You've got a roof over your head. It's not so bad. His idea, I think it's instilled in a lot of young men in certain ways. Oh, no, you gotta find your thing. You gotta move forward. You gotta plow through everything. You gotta, do you know what I mean? It's like, just stop. Actually, find out who you are a little bit. It's okay if you're bouncing from job to job and just working it out. Again, measuring yourself against what you do as opposed to who you are and developing who you are as a person. Or identifying actually the things that you have in your life that actually should make you happier than you are right now because you're fixating on this thing of, I gotta move forward, I gotta find the thing. Like, what about if you make that thing your humanity? Right. Something that I think stereotypically women are more so taught to learn as they grow, develop themselves. Yes, it's through, you know, if we're going to go stereotypically through a man's world, women are more typically brought up to learn how to cook, learn how to clean, all of these things that are going to stand you in good stead when you go out into the world. Right. Women are kind of taught more so, I suppose, how to survive in this world, as opposed to men who are just taught to exist in this world. Right. And I think those two things, those two different ideas instilled in those genders do result in, I think, women learning more about themselves, stopping, looking around, taking their time a little bit more. Whereas men are always looking around, where do I go? Right. Again, and I talk about this a lot. Talking in generalities, this doesn't encompass all men or women by any means, and times have moved on a lot, you know, since the 2000s and more conservative values of what a man should be and what a woman should be. I think you still see these kinds of things in society today. All the same.
Gotta be always moving forward.
Like a shark.
Like a shark. She's almost making fun of him, and at the same time conforming to that infantile kind of position of like a shark. She's almost replying like a kid, but she's almost in another breath kind of making fun a little bit, like a big bad shark. Oh, look at her. This idea of masculinity being the big bad shark. Whereas it's like, no, mate, and that's okay. You don't need to be.
And on land.
Very good.
How easily Spike, as the understudy, got a word of praise from his mentor there. Didn't really say anything. Well done, little Timmy. And then conversely, Xander follows up with,
Buffy, are you sure you want to play there?
Buffy, you sure you want to... Why?
It's a pretty big sandbox.
Yeah, dangerous, huh?
I'm okay. It's not coming for me yet.
Oh.
You can't protect yourself from some stuff.
Very vague. Cool. Yeah. 1 line, 2 line. Spike is the representation of, like I say, the man. Says the very juvenile, very simple comment. Gets the praise. Xander looks at Buffy. Are you sure you're going to be okay? Do you need me to protect you? You know, again, sorry. I feel like I'm just repeating myself at this point. You get the idea.
You can't protect yourself from some stuff.
From what? You've just been instilled with this idea of having to protect women. Why? There is a common theme though, right? Whatever this thing in the desert is, coming for them. We do have some supernatural entity perhaps in this episode.
I'm way ahead of you, big brother.
Brother.
A watcher scoffs at gravity.
You okay with being a brother, mate? Not the love interest, the romance. There you go. Yeah.
Do you know where you're going?
I've been thinking about getting back into Vengeance.
Oh yeah. Do you know where you're going? And it's almost the old Xander and the ice cream Xander here looking at that. At the old Xander. Buffy, brother. He repeats brother. Almost in a way of like, that's how you see me. You know, which is very much the old Xander, right? Didn't want to be the brother, wanted to be the love interest. Kind of almost hitting his masculinity. Because no, I shouldn't be the brother. I don't want to be friend zoned. Everything about masculinity teaches me that's bad. That's a negative. And it's like, no, you've got a beautiful friend in Buffy. And it's lovely actually, we're seeing, and we have seen this season, Xander kind of come on a little bit, and we've seen more maturity from him. And so, this season Xander almost looking back at that version of him that would have been, I don't know, taken that brother as a little bit of a barb, right? That Xander that is in that world of looking at women in a sandpit and being like, are you okay? Do you need me to protect you? She's fine, mate. She's in a sandpit. It's not that dangerous. In that world where Giles and Spike are representing this idea of manhood, of having someone, you know, a man, an older man, protecting you and shepherding you through life and giving you all the praise you could possibly want. Anyway, old life, old Xander, right? Season 1, 2, 3. Season 4, Xander, ice cream truck. He's looking at that kind of almost, that's where I was, this is where I am now. And then what does he do? He goes into the ice cream truck. And what is there? And that was my reaction, Anya, right? And I'm thinking back to that scene where Anya came in again, you know, that I've referenced of, it's not so bad, you've got a girlfriend that loves you, you know. And then she asks him, where are you going? And it's almost the unspoken, I don't know. And that's okay, perhaps.
Do you know where you're going?
Yeah. Or, a little bit touchy, I don't really know. But he's kind of in this in-between space of being kind of okay with it because he's got Anya. But something niggling at him. What is niggling at him? It is what he was just looking at. Examining. That patriarchal world that's had its hold so tight on him that he now feels this need to find something to apply his value to when all he has to do is look within himself for his own value.
I think this is going to be a very big year for Vengeance.
Oh?
Isn't Vengeance kind of vengeful?
You don't want me to have a hobby.
Not a vengeance hobby, no. It's dangerous. People can't do anything they want.
Really?
Society has rules and borders and an end zone.
There we go. We're getting less subtle now. And still, you know, we're seeing here, they're almost talking like husband and wife. I think I'm going to get back into this thing, right? Him driving. Kind of this picture almost, you kind of squint. of husband and wife that have been together for a long time. She's kind of wayward. She doesn't know what she's going to do. She wants to get back into something. Him still being displayed as having this element of masculinity to him of you can't just do whatever you want. Or from a wider perspective of this application of society and its rules to everything to the extent that it is quashing individuality and identity, right?
Isn't vengeance kind of vengeful?
It's interesting to consider this line in the prophetic, vengeance to come. We can have a conversation about whether revenge is a good or bad thing, but far more interesting to me right now is the question of why would anyone be looking for vengeance? Is one of our group going to get hurt? Anya, perhaps in what would be poetic flair to have her herself say it in this dream. Anyway, food for thought, but what seems like an ill omen.
Society has rules and borders and an end zone.
And an end zone too.
We just think you're really interesting.
Oh, I'm going places.
And him perceiving two women as making out as hot, as objectifying them, as opposed to, you know, so often the male gaze of two women romantically together is so often portrayed as sexy, as for the male gaze, and so apart from being a serious loving relationship between two women, right? Kind of sums up the way that Xander's primed to see their relationship, you know. And I'm not even saying, by the way, that this is necessarily overtly what Xander thinks or is going to result perhaps in the real world in really unhealthy things, but it's perhaps revealing the deep-seated instincts within him because of the societal things around him that have made him into the person that he is, right? So I'm not trying to say this necessarily with like intense harshness towards Xander, just that he is a product of his society, as we've seen, you know, throughout these seasons. Yeah, the sexualization of their relationship as opposed to something being warm and wholesome and comfortable, right? And it's funny that his line before he looks at them is like, society has these rules and an end zone, almost trying to imply as we shift to seeing and looking at them that a relationship between two women isn't the goal, isn't the end zone. You know, it's just a little bit of fun right now, which again is an unhealthy aspect to the patriarchy and how men, a lot of men, not all men by any means, see this sort of thing.
We just think you're really interesting.
Oh,
I almost missed it. The same thing with Joyce. Their lips aren't moving, but he's hearing what he wants to hear. He's not truly listening to them. It doesn't matter that they're not speaking to him. He's hearing what he wants, right? Sapping all of the autonomy and individuality from the woman. And what do they actually say or not say? Well, what does he hear? What he wants to hear. So representative of how many men go through the world, just kind of hearing what they want to hear as opposed to actually listening, especially when a woman's involved.
We just think you're really interesting.
Because that's what he wants to be told. I'm interesting and I'm going places.
I'm going places.
Yeah, because that's all that matters, right? It's such a egotistical male bravado thing that it's so empty. So lacking in kind of self-awareness, right? And then the objectification.
Watch this.
Yeah. Watch the road though, buddy. Okay.
Do you want to come in the back with us?
Oh, go on.
It's almost this thing of he wants excitement. He wants the male ideal of life, as opposed to the safe comfort and warmth and love of a stable relationship that he has in Anya, right? Wants to go back there. Yeah, and it makes sense that as we go into Willow and her kind of psyche of identity, we see her, you know, wrestling with Buffy, second fiddle, being responsible for whatever it is, or at least this perception that she is, and also her coming out to people, right? This fear. And then we come into Xander's and it's all about, you know, tied up so, oh God, tightly in this stereotypical idea of masculinity, tugging at him, controlling him in the same way that the other things are kind of tugging at Willow, controlling Willow. All of these representations, you know, of how people's identities are so controlled by outside forces. Super appropriate for a finale of this season.
I think I figured out how to steer by gesturing emphatically.
It's funny, the music actually makes me think of that Apocalypse Now on the screen. Kind of jungle vibes. He was kind of walking through the jungle, wasn't he? And what was he seeing? He was so interested in that. What did he say? It gets better. Because that's always the promise of that idea of masculinity. However bad your life might be right now, it gets better. It's always the promise of it getting better. And it's like, no, not if you're on this path. Not really. Not usually. But sorry, the music.
I think I figured out how to steer by just...
Kind of almost that as it kicks in, this enterprise, right? Is the feeling of the tone, the note, the kind of the percussion. To me, speaking of, it just evokes to me, like I say, that jungle scene as he's walking through in the movie. And what is happening as that music plays, he is moving towards this idea of the promise of that masculinity. Sheep on the wall? Yeah. Yeah. Because what are men that kind of just go along with this idea? Kind of sheep, dude. I'm sorry. I'm not. Break out of it. Live a little. See women as people, right? Stop looking at life as stepping stones. One to the next, to the next, to the next. Always moving, always going. Never stopping, looking around and being like, what have I got though? Really? We're back here. Stepping out of the basement and the fear of that almost. The basement perhaps representing everything we've seen so far in this flashback.
I know what's up there!
What?
These will not protect you.
What? Because what have we seen? What's been the one consistent, I suppose, in Xander's life this season is the basement, right? And I suppose it would be quite symbolic of him getting out of it. Not necessarily moving. It wouldn't necessarily be a moving forward. It would be a kind of doing something for himself, getting some independence for himself, right? Getting some space for him to actually breathe.
These will not protect you.
Cheese guy, just been cheese guy. I love it. Kind of my favourite character, honestly, the entire show so far.
Giles, what's after me?
It's because of what we did, I know that.
Oh, this is the result of what I was saying, I suppose, about last episode and the spell that, yeah, so they're all caught up in it, I suppose. God, dude. Oh, this is going to take so long to edit. Hour and a half, mate. Hour and a half of footage so far. This is cool. This is awesome for me. Thank you. But yeah, so this is a repercussion of the spell. We'll see.
It's because of what we did, I know that.
Cool.
And the others have gone on ahead.
Right.
Now listen very carefully.
Yeah.
Your life may depend on what I'm about to tell you.
Beautiful.
You need...
La maison ne nous tue durement. Là, il y en a une tape même.
That's not helpful, mate.
La créature ne peut pas te faire de mal.
We need the cheese guy. Is he French?
I don't understand.
Ah, dis donc, ce n'est pas le temps pour les jeux idiotes.
I got idiot.
Il faut que tu viennes avec nous maintenant.
Damn.
I can't hear you.
Oh, there we go. Now we are going through. Yeah, where does that life lead, really?
Where are you from, Harris?
Well, the basement mostly.
The basement, right? Yeah.
I walked by your guidance counselor's office one time.
Is that the yes, I recognize his voice. It's Snyder.
I walked by your guidance counselor's office one time.
What? Or as Giles and Anya would say, quoi?
Born there?
Possibly.
Yeah, you were possibly born there doesn't mean you have to die there, right?
A bunch of you were sitting there, waiting to be shepherded.
Shepherded. Sheep.
The hope of our nation's future is a bunch of mulch.
And whose fault is that, though, right? Who's in charge of their childhoods? Who's in charge of governing their childhood?
I remember it smelled like dead flowers.
Dead flowers, right?
You know, I never got the chance to tell you how glad I was you were eaten by a snake.
Yes, I know it's you, mate. I recognise your voice, unfortunately.
Where are you heading?
Where you heading?
Well, I'm supposed to meet Tara and Willow.
Supposed. What do you want to do?
And possibly Buffy's mom.
Because those are the things that your childish manhood, masculinity has taught you that you want and where you know, your ideal. And when you boil it down, what are those things? It's sex, right? Sex with a good-looking older woman or sex with two lesbians that you've over-sexualized into your ideal. Where are you moving? Is that your ideal? Is that the best you can come up with? Is that the best that your masculinity has taught you to strive for? It's kind of sad. Stop listening to what you're supposed to do and actually listen to what you want, mate.
Your time is running out.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to get away.
Is that what it is? Because what did that do? What did that spell do last episode? It brought them all together into one, right? And I suppose that's what's happening. They're all having to find their individuality again. They're all having to find themselves again. And I suppose is that story being told, that, you know, supernaturalness of the element of what happened last episode, is that being told through this, you have to aggressively look for, and it's going to be a journey of actually finding more about themselves and coming down, you know, are they all going to come out of these dreams more sure of themselves and who they are and where they want to go or who they want to be? Because they have to, right? They have to find their identity, or what? They'll lose themselves because of this spell that made them all one person. Because I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? That's what we're kind of talking about in terms of, you know, patriotism, these American ideals, American freedom, all of these things that kind of just make us all the same. These stereotypical melodies of society that make us as people all the same, or at least similar, right? Conformity, non-conformity, all this stuff. We've been talking about that all season. How appropriate is it that our protagonists, Scoobies, are each fighting in this finale about identity for their individuality, true individuality? Not just fighting for that, but finding out what that is, truly, you know. And again, like I say, the capstone of this season that has been them meandering through this possibility of what that could be for each of them. This is a great episode for finding out who each of them are, truly, and diving into their psyche in such a detailed and beautiful way.
No, I'm just trying to get away. There's something I can't fight.
Oh, yeah.
Are you a soldier?
Relax.
I'm a confortador. You're neither.
Yeah.
You're a whipping boy, raised by mongrels and set on a sacrificial stone.
Sure.
I'm getting a cramp.
Yeah, okay. Set on a sacrificial stone, so interesting, because what have we seen in Xander's kind of ideal identity from season 1 almost, and into this episode too, still present? What? The soldier on the sacrificial stone. That felt like a very aggressive jab in the writing at that idea, right? Sending off our young boys to fight in some war and possibly die, right? You're a whipping boy. Snyder, or the representation of Snyder here in the words he's saying, kind of cutting through all of the everything that we've seen in this dream and Xander so far, and you know, all of the things that have shaped him, kind of trying to cut through that and actually spewing a little bit of truth at him. If that's truly where he wants to go, if these are the things that he wants to be, it's nothing.
Raised by mongrels.
Raised by mongrels, because if you're raised in a way to think these things, then, you know, it's almost this thing of they're mongrels to have taught you that. Or this idea of kind of, again, you know, the American military and represented in Xander in the way that it's trying to push this ideal of aggressive violence, the perfect soldier, at him, making him see it as that ideal, that perfect ideal, glorified. It's from a power structure that has romanticized this idea of war, of soldiering, through, you know, what have we got? Movies too, right? The American government, the American military, the ideals with which those things are born by men that think the same as Xander. Snyder here branding them as mongrels, and Xander as no better than.
Raised by mongrels and set on a sacrificial stone.
Yeah, as a result. There it is.
Giles? I can fight anything, right? Maybe we should slap him.
That's cool. All of these transitions are really cool. Yeah. What is this again? It's,
That's not the way out.
You sure?
What the hell is wrong with you? You won't come upstairs?
Damn.
What are you, ashamed of us?
Yeah, and I think, you know, personified in Spike and Giles previously, that ideal of, or that wanting, you know, the desire for a father figure, because this is his father figure, right? And I know, as we've seen hints throughout the seasons of his parents, how unhealthy they are, this shadow perhaps of abuse hinted at, like I say. I think the Spike and Giles representation does apply generally, but I think clearly also something that he yearns for and doesn't have. And it's like he's too scared, right? We've seen all through his little dream. Returning to the basement, the door, you know, he's kind of running away from it, doesn't want to go towards it. How binding, how restrictive, how caged is he as a result of who his mum and dad are and their influence on him, and how that makes him feel? Is that fear controlling him?
The line ends here with us. You haven't got the heart.
You haven't got the heart. Yes, you have, mate. Ouch. Alright, Giles is up. Oh my god, I got 2 more to do. Sorry.
Don't you think it's a little old-fashioned?
This is the way women and men have behaved since the beginning.
I can't just keep stopping and saying the same thing. Yeah, get what I want to say. Yeah, what is that though? Hypnotizing. Coercion. Women hypnotized into taking this role that's not good for them. Not affording them any freedom, individuality. This image, this representation of the man with the... This is beautiful.
You're gonna miss out the good stuff.
Does she always want to train this badly?
Yeah, and again, just in case it wasn't clear enough before, the representation of women. Mother. Oh, infantilized here.
It appears she's never heard the fable about patience.
Which one is that?
The one with the fox and the, less patient fox.
Here!
And then Giles in the middle. The centre, you know. Her asking him the question. Him being questioned about the fable, doesn't really know. The one with the fox and the less patient fox doesn't really know. Right? Men always arrayed into these positions that they're perhaps not equipped for, don't have the knowledge for. Just by virtue of being a man.
Oh, you stick me.
I haven't got any treats.
God's sake, Rupert, go easy on the girl.
Yeah.
This is my business.
Is it? Your business. So interesting, isn't it? When you think about it. Women are just good for child rearing, you know, being a mother. And yet the man has the final say.
God's sake, Rupert, go easy on the girl.
You know, how much power does she actually have as the mother there? And his parenting technique, what is that? Cold. Not a father, a taskmaster, more so.
It's blood of the lamb and all that.
Well, you know, his upbringing, what he's been taught as a watcher, it's where he came from, right? Alright.
I know you.
Oh?
Hey! Come on!
Yeah, do you know what the supernatural beast is?
Don't push me around, you know I have a great deal to do.
I've hired myself out as an attraction. At least in showbiz.
What am I supposed to do with all of this?
I don't really know, honestly, but this section seems more so on the prophetic end of the equation. Some heartbreak or tragedy with his lady friend. I'm sorry, I forget her name. Something to come in Spike's arc. The black and white did strike me initially as suggesting Giles and his viewpoints can be a little old-fashioned, though I didn't think it was big enough a thing to remark on at the time.
Haven't you figured it all out yet with your enormous squishy frontal lobe?
I wear the cheese. It does not wear me.
Beautiful. Yes, Ian. What's that in Ian? Sorry, yes, he's called Ian now. I wear the cheese doesn't wear me. Oh, what did he say to Xander? I feel like the cheese man is representing aspects of kind of the personalities of the people that are in the dreams. Because what was it in Willow's? It was like, I'm standing over here very nicely. It's very ordered, very structured, very studious almost, right? Polite, kind of out the way, in a quiet corner, away from everyone else, not bothering anyone, but it's all very, you know, like I say, studious, very ordered, in a way that Willow is. God, what did he say to Xander? I can't remember. Point being, sorry, I might go back in a sec. What is he saying in Giles's? The I wear the cheese doesn't wear me. Almost this blustering taking of power, where you don't really hold the power. I suppose, what does that represent? Almost his place in the Watchers. This kind of puffed up place that he held, that he felt he had a lot of power in, you know, that institution, but ultimately we saw he didn't. And actually, it didn't afford him true happiness in himself. Kind of almost this insistence that all is well and everything is okay. I'm wearing the cheese doesn't wear me. You got cheese on you, Ian. The cheese is in control. Do you know, like, an insistence of something kind of so arbitrary. And that's kind of, I suppose, what his role was with Buffy, in terms of like his role as Watcher was so arbitrary. It didn't really necessarily matter what mattered. His relationship with Buffy, person to person, human to human. And that's where the power lies. He sees his way in this season 4, as so powerless, so wayward. He doesn't know who he is, where he's going. He feels so low in terms of identity, self-esteem, or, you know, powerlessness in a lot of ways. But he needs to learn that, I think, you know, this idea of his station that he held, you know, as he perceived it to be, as Watcher, was so empty. It didn't mean anything. It doesn't hold any power over him. You know, This insistence that it was important, that it meant something, is the wrong insistence, the wrong question, the wrong topic, God. Almost how Ian here is like, okay, that doesn't matter. It's okay, Ian. Be well with your cheese. It doesn't matter about you. Like, that's not the important thing here. Are you happy, Ian? It's almost this thing of like, stop vying for power over this thing that you hold so tightly. You know, the cheese here is almost Watcher. Giles and Watcher. This arbitrary insistence of power in this state of being, right? Ian with his cheese, Giles as a Watcher.
These will not protect you.
These will not protect you. It's almost the cheese I sound insane. The cheese represents Giles, Ian, cheese. It's not Ian. He is Ian. Cheese, Watcher. What is the cheese here? These will not protect you. That's his crisis of identity. Protection. He needs to feel protected, safe. Because he doesn't in this basement. Father, mum, you know, all this stuff. Trying to break out of it, find his own identity, who he is. The cheese represents almost these aspects or facets to his identity that he sees as almost protection. The cheese guy being like, these rules of masculinity, they won't protect you, mate. Wreathing yourself in soldier, in having sex with lots of women. They're not going to protect you from your dad. They're not going to protect you from breaking out of that cage that I talked about before in that he is in here. Only you can do that. The insistence with Giles and this cheese and the power. Only Giles can realise his own value outside of being a Watcher, right? Let's go back to Willow.
I've made a little space for the cheese slices.
I've made a little space for the cheese slices. This thing that she's almost ashamed of. I've made a little space. She's constantly always making space for other people, never actually, perhaps, taking her identity in two hands and being like, this is who I am, right? What do we see later, I suppose? The cheese almost represents these things for each individual person, and it's almost the block in the way, you know, the thing that I feel like they almost represent for each individual person, blocking them from actually identifying their true potential of person, right? Their true identity. Willow, in this kind of facet to her identity, I always make space for other people, you know, almost this thing of like getting walked all over that we have kind of seen in terms of how she can be, right, or has been. I'm kind of wrangling with that idea of power and trying to find that in herself this season. And it going a little wrong, right? Because she's not used to it. And she doesn't quite know what that looks like for her. You know, Ian, bless him, trying to point out through the fun of cheese, which it cannot be overstated, is a fantastic method of demonstration.
Honestly, you meet the most appalling sort of people.
I do still stand by what I said about Ian at the start, though, in this idea of conformity, non-conformity.
Wear the cheese. It does not wear me.
In every single incarnation of him in these dreams, he's a little kooky. And what's Giles' response?
You meet the most appalling sort of people.
Yeah, most appalling sort of people. He's not hurting anybody, dude. He's just got cheese on him. Right, if that's a crime, then lock me up. Do you know what I mean?
I'm so sorry, I'm late. There's a great deal going on.
Bronze.
Look at Xander.
Got the sucking chest wound swinging.
Okay, so we're all kind of present in the incarnations that we've seen in these dreams. Interesting. And we're all kind of aware. All still kind of in tandem, right? You know, Giles comes in. Willow and Xander are kind of aware of what's going on. What is that? They're still connected in the way that we perhaps saw last episode. They were all made into one. What a cool storytelling device to kind of, I feel like, communicate that they're still kind of all one and they are fighting for their individuality to survive here, right? The fact that they're aware, they're both aware, they've retained everything we've seen as the audience. And Giles is also like, they're all working together still.
There's a great deal going on.
There is, yes.
Okay.
Go on, Anya, what you got?
A man walks into the office
Comedy.
of a doctor.
Mm.
He's wearing on his head,
Cheese?
there's a duck. Is that right?
Okay, it's alright.
You suck.
Quiet.
Hey, let her get to the point.
You'll miss the humorous conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing quite well.
I think so too.
Do you know this is your fault?
What?
We have to think of the facts.
I was custodian.
I'm very busy. I have a gig myself, you know.
Yeah, musician.
Primal, some animal force.
Yes, Anya.
Some animal force.
Primal animal, okay.
That used to be us.
Don't get linear on me now.
That used to be us.
And the duck tells the doctor that there's a man that's attached to my ass. It was the duck and not the man that spoke.
There we go, you nailed it, mate. Proud of you. The episode seems to be trying to hint at something here in terms of time and linear storytelling. We have Giles say, "That used to be us." Xander talking about him going linear, and then Anya telling a joke with pieces of a story that don't make sense, while she asserts that the telling of the story the way she wanted to tell it, after struggling to wrap her head around it, was crucial to understanding. Perhaps a meta reference to this episode in the sense of how we're getting pieces of the story to come, I feel, in this, hinted at, while we also get pieces of the story we've had in something of a bridge episode that's going towards incorporating past, present and future in ways that do make sense but also don't, because at this stage in the show I don't have all the pieces. It's simultaneously a finale for season 4 while being slightly confusing in parts, which is exactly what Anya just did. She told the end of a joke that was somewhat confusing, but something that the audience in the show seemed to have all the pieces for, and so they laughed in appreciation, while we, as the audience to Buffy the Vampire Slayer the show, look on a little clueless, but in support of this character we do know because we've been privy to at least part of the story so far.
If we don't know what we're fighting, I don't think we stand a chance.
You recognise?
Strange.
Yes.
Anything we've faced before.
Let's go. I'm here for this, mate, yeah.
It's familiar somehow.
Mm-hmm.
The spell we cast with Buffy.
Yeah.
Released some primal evil that's come back seeking.
Yeah.
The chronicles for some reference to. I've got to warn Buffy, there's every chance she might be next.
I think she is, mate.
Help Willow, and try not to bleed on my couch. I just had it steam clean.
Beautiful Giles. Yeah, you recognised it when Buffy turned round, the face thing. Time.
Obvious.
Oh. Oh, also, what did we say? What? I'm so sorry. I haven't memorised them yet. Xander's the heart, and he got his heart taken out. Giles is the intellect, the mind. What was Willow? Spirit?
I know who you are.
Yeah.
Can cripple you with my thoughts.
Uh-huh. What?
You underestimate me. You never had a watcher.
Oh, Faith? Was okay. Like, was Faith empowered? I did say last episode. Was she empowered in some way too?
Please wake up.
Yeah, Anya's present in all of them. Oh god. Okay, we are, like, speeding up.
Faith and I just made that bed.
For who?
During recording, I didn't hear that she said Faith, but I remember the dream in which she made the bed with Faith. This did make me want to go back to that scene to rewatch, but I can't remember which episode it was in, so feel free to make a comment to let me know. The suggestion seems to me to be another Slayer, but time will tell, I suppose. No spoilers, please, of course, just wondering out loud.
The guys aren't here, are they?
You lost them.
I think they need me to find them.
Uh-huh.
It's so late.
That clock's completely wrong.
Cool. Not helpful.
I'm never gonna use those.
You think you know what's to come?
Oh.
What you are? You haven't even begun.
Really? So, what you are. So there's more to the Slayer than we are aware of? The bed's made.
I think I need to go find the others.
Interesting. So are these prophetic almost as well? You know, they tapped into something last episode and it's having, you know, perhaps multiple effects on them in terms of perhaps everything that I'm talking about in, you know, who they are, identity, all this stuff, but also what's to come. I mean, that would make sense for sure, considering we're talking about the potential possibility of identity of where they're going to go, where you could go in terms of who they're going to be and develop into. Giles at the end, well, mind, I suppose. What was that? Sorry, because I was like, cut to the head. But I suppose taking out the brain.
Be back before dawn.
Dawn, okay.
They wouldn't just disappear.
She seems to have the most control, power, autonomy almost, in all of these that we've seen, actually. The other three sort of having it happen to them as opposed to Buffy. And I think that's kind of representative of who she is at this point in the show. She's been through so much in a way that I think has sped up her maturity in certain ways. She's still a young person, absolutely. But she's come into her own a lot. She's taken a lot of her autonomy herself. As we've seen as she broke away from the Watchers in Season 3, Season 4, she's on her own, carving out her own path for herself. You know, there's a lot of power in that.
Oh, hi, honey.
Why are you living in the walls?
Oh, sweetie, no, I'm fine here.
Uh-huh.
Don't worry about me.
Oh, bless.
It looks dirty.
Yeah. Almost this representation of, I suppose, how you're inadvertently treating her, right? She's just kind of pushed into the walls. You're not really paying attention. You're not really giving her space in your life that she maybe deserves, and she's too nice and she's too understanding now, bless her, because she knows who you are and what your duty is, that she's never going to step on your toes. She's always going to try and enable you and make things as easy as possible. That's what she's doing, but as a result you're neglecting her, and she's too nice to say, hey, I'd like you in my life more. This is the place you've consigned her to, Buffy.
Well, it seems that way to you. I made some lemonade, and I'm learning how to play mahjong.
Right.
A mouse is playing with my knees.
How big's the mouse?
I really don't think you should live in there.
Well, you could
Oh.
break through the wall.
Just as we're talking about it, she runs away.
Hey there, killer.
Riley?
They made me Surgeon General.
Cool.
Why didn't you come and tell me?
We're drawing up a plan for world domination.
Of course you are.
The key element? Coffee makers that think.
Wait, did you say coffee makers? I honestly thought you were going to say men. That's so much better. Wait.
Up a plan for world domination. The key element? Coffee makers that think.
I'm not mishearing that, right? Riley! Coffee! Dude, I can't argue with that plan. I'm so sorry, Buff. World domination through those means? Sign me up.
Coffee makers that think.
I think they've got it in them.
World domination?
Can I just for a second, just take a second. It's almost like this show was made for me. Like they're just catering to me. Yes, it's my egotistical world, mate. That's the world that I live in. Okay?
Is that a good?
Baby, we're the government. It's what we do.
She's uncomfortable with certain concepts.
I mean, must I say more? And the representation of their gun.
It's what we do.
Yeah, how apt.
Certain concepts.
Why do I recognise you?
Aggression is a natural human tendency. Come by it another way.
Oh, it's Adam. Wait, that's Adam. That's the Adam actor, no?
She's uncomfortable with certain concepts.
Yeah, it's Adam. That's why I recognise him. That was wild. Sorry. Cool that he's got a little gig on his as himself.
Aggression is a natural human tendency, though you and me come by it another way.
Yeah, and that's kind of Buffy's lot in life so far, right? Men saying to her...
It's understandable. Aggression is a natural human tendency.
Aggression is a natural human tendency, their worldview.
She's uncomfortable with certain concepts.
She's uncomfortable with certain concepts. She's right there, talk to her, right? Belittled, right? Not really given a voice in the room. How often have we seen that? And Buffy carving out her own path through that. Constantly having to fight this patriarchal system to have a voice and have any power. Through this dogma, constantly given new voice by the Watchers, Adam, etc.
Buffy, we've got important work here. A lot of filing, giving things names.
Very important jobs, yeah.
Giving things names.
Yeah. How useful really are you, Mr. Government?
Giving things names.
What was yours?
Before Adam, not a man among us can remember.
Damn. I think this interaction goes to show the humanity in Adam that was squandered and lost, and goes to represent the way the government often discounts, discards, or outright restricts the individuality of people. Their numbers, statistics, not people with identities, and it acts as a form of dehumanization that it's so important to retain if a government is to not lose its way.
We better make a fort. I'll get some pillows.
Arraying government is so juvenile. By the way, it should be important to say, I don't think government is, by any means silly or unimportant. Just the shade of the government being represented right now. Just to clarify on that.
Wait, I have weapons.
That's so cool what she did with her voice. So almost, it's almost that was so cool. When has anyone ever had like a dream like that where you're trying to shout or talk and you can't, and it's like your voice is almost lost at the back of your throat, so quiet, you can't quite, that was almost what she did there. That's the impression, the feeling that I got. And what is that, right? Her voice silenced, not listened to, not being able to cast her voice any further than God barely past her lips, right? That is the place that she's been put into in this world. And yet she has weapons, she has the power to fight, and she is so undervalued. What is that? Cement? Almost to suggest making something? Forging a weapon? What's it going to be? Perhaps another prophetic touch? Is she going to acquire some... Oh, that was what was on her face? Okay. Almost conflating weapon with herself. She is a weapon. Or, question, is that all she is? Almost a forging here, look, like furnace fire.
Okay, killer.
Killer. He keeps calling her killer. You know, again, conflation of weapon to kill. Very dehumanizing.
Thought you were looking for your friends. Okay, killer.
That's the way you want it. I guess you're on your own.
Almost arrayed as a choice in that she, what is she? Is she the weapon solo on her own? You didn't go look, you were looking for your friends and you got distracted. How often have we seen that this season, right? She cares about her friends, she loves her friends, she's a good friend. But how often have we seen her duties as the Slayer, as this thing that could be so easily conflated with a weapon, got distracted by that path and forgotten her friends, right? Her friends are off doing their own thing, living their own lives. We've seen that this season. Almost this dream torturing her with that aspect to her identity. Her, you know, there's a crisis. She went looking for her friends. She found herself in this room. There was a crisis. Suddenly she's looking for weapons, and now almost this conflation of I am the weapon. Then Riley comes in.
Okay, killer.
Killer.
That's the way you want it.
That's the way you want it. You're not looking for your friends, you're a weapon now. This is the path you chose, Slayer.
I guess you're on your own.
Guess you're on your own. As that. Buffy in this place of, is that what you want? What do you want, mate? Sand. Interesting, considering we've, this is the wilderness. Just in the way that the sand's been represented, the sand pit, right? Playing in the sand pit as she was in Xander's dream. I think all of these dreams are connected, right? We've been kind of shown that in the way that Giles, Xander, Willow were interacting in Giles's, and they were kind of all aware of what's been going on. They just had to catch up a little bit. All of these dreams are connected, and I think that means something. The fact that she was playing in sand on her own. Xander, you okay? You need help. It's dangerous in there. And then in Buffy's, we have her walking forward into it, confident, on her own, not scared, right? Yeah, on her own in the vastness. Almost this representation of what she is in this show so far. Striking out on her own, powerful as she is, in this dangerous environment.
Never gonna find them here.
Of course not.
Yeah, Tara at the centre of it too, and there's something to do with Anya. I mean, Tara and Anya trying to get them out, I wonder.
I was borrowed. Someone has to speak for her.
Huh?
Let her speak for herself. That's what's done in polite circles.
Oh, is it like the first Slayer? Sorry.
I was borrowed.
You were borrowed.
Someone has to speak for her.
Her.
For herself.
Yeah.
That's what's done in polite circles.
Yeah. How apt that Buffy's the one saying that. Let her, specifically, speak for herself. That's what's done in polite circles. That is what Buffy has been representing a lot through these shows. You know, women's empowerment, taking power for herself in this world of men.
Where are my friends?
You're asking the wrong questions.
Okay.
Make her speak.
Buffy trying to enable her autonomy, give her power. She deserves to speak at this table just as much as I do. An ambassador for that independence now.
Why do you follow me?
It's also so interesting that in each one of these, this person was pursuing, chasing, aggressive, and with Buffy is unflinching, confident, powerful, this being not daring to attack her.
I live in the action of death. I am destruction. Absolute, alone.
The Slayer.
Huh.
The first.
Knocked out of the park, dude. Knocked that out of the park. God, I'm good. Oh, I'm good. Might have cricked my neck, I'm not going to lie to you.
The Slayer.
As soon as she said her, I don't know what it was. It just kind of made sense. Considering the way that Tara was talking to her before, when I started talking, what was it she said when they were looking at the bed? That was why. Because she started talking about the Slayer and, yeah, the essence of the Slayer, right? As well. Sorry, I'm talking more so like as a concept, the Slayer, what imbues them with that power, that this is the essence of the Slayer, right? This is obviously, right, sure, the first Slayer, the first person that was imbued with that. Why? What is that? Also said, that's not all you are, or you don't even know what you're going to be.
I have no speech, no name. I live in the action of death.
How appropriate as well that in this, you know, like I keep saying, this capstone to this season with the theme of identity, and in Buffy's incarnation of this dream, the focus of the conversation is Slayer. What, who, why, right? Those are the questions almost attached to the idea of the Slayer here. And Buffy's role in that.
The blood cry, the penetrating wound. I am destruction.
I love how she like kind of stalks around Buffy, and as she says this, she kind of stands almost proud, or at least maybe not proud perhaps, but taking the burden of that power and thriving almost, right? In the movement mirrored in the words being said.
I am destruction.
Are they going to become one?
Alone.
She's almost squaring up to Buffy. Not squaring up, but kind of mirroring almost.
I am destruction. Absolute.
Ready to kind of, you know.
I am not alone.
The Slayer does not walk in this world.
I walk.
Uh-huh.
I talk. I shop. I sneeze. I'm gonna be a fireman when the floods roll back. There's trees in the desert since you moved out. And I don't sleep on a bed of bones.
Ah, the identity of the Slayer's changed. Or has it? Almost implying, in the way that the first Slayer is talking here, that's not what we always were. How much has the role of the Slayer changed? Or how much has that power been weaponized by men? Because that's what we have in our world, right? And as a result of that system, how that's worked throughout the years, we have Buffy in the way that she is right now, striking out and getting her autonomy and power for herself. But I suppose it implies here that perhaps the Slayer was just a power, and depending on what the Slayer did, was down to those that wielded or worked out a way to wield that power. How appropriate in this patriarchal world that we have a structure of men that have implemented this system of recycling young girls, having them get killed so that they can keep that power, that weapon for themselves to wield over the world, to acquire power for themselves. Like I say, the implication here being that the Slayer wasn't always meant necessarily for that, or perhaps the Slayer was meant for that but has been twisted by the Watchers into what the Slayer is now. I don't know, questions though, right? But that almost idea of aimlessness or powerlessness of I am just a being with power, controlled perhaps, right? What is it? The Slayer doesn't walk. What does that mean? I don't walk, I'm pointed, right? Other people wield me. What's Buffy saying? I go where I want. I do this. You know, she is an incarnation of the Slayer that perhaps we haven't seen for a very long time. Maybe, I'm guessing, theorizing at this point.
The Slayer does not walk in this world.
Yeah.
I walk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a fireman when the floods roll back.
Yeah. Not only that, I'll be the fireman when the floods roll back. She's choosing her path, and what is she choosing? To be a hero. To wield that power for good. The purest good that she knows.
And I don't sleep on a bed of bones.
Yeah. Privilege almost, right? The privilege been afforded to her at the same time.
Now give me back my friends.
No friends.
Not allowed.
Just to kill.
Huh. Right. Ian!
That's it. I'm waking up.
Okay. Interesting though that Ian doesn't speak. Ian has no power here because Buffy cutting through all that, right? Ryder, you're a killer. Buffy kind of shrugging that off and being like, no, I'm going to find my friends. Goes out to find them. Finds herself here. I'm not going to find them here. It's Slayer talking. The Slayer walks alone. Doesn't walk, whatever. You know, we don't get this. Buffy insisting, no, I do. Give me them back, right? Consistently is my point. Buffy cutting through or not listening, shrugging off these things around her that are trying to control her path, right? Out of all of them, she is the one that has almost knows who she is the most, right? And, you know, we can talk all day about why that might be. I made plenty of videos as to why that could be, you know. This idea of her growing up too fast because of her role as the Slayer, all of these different ways in which that's happened, and how she's matured and all these things she's had to go through with the Watchers, etc., etc. As we see with all of them, they're kind of being controlled by these things, you know, to a certain extent. And I'm not blaming them for that. Very human things. But Buffy kind of demonstrating she's a cut above that, at least at this point, in that doesn't have any hand on her. She knows who she is. She knows what she wants. She accepts that she is the Slayer, but doesn't accept that that should define who she is. She gets to define that, right? That's what we saw there. And I feel like that's the reason I got onto it, because it's so appropriate, taking all of that into account in how Ian the Cheeseman has represented what he has and held so much power in Giles, Xander, Willow, their dreams, because they're still kind of falling prey to these outside things that are still kind of impacting their identity in a way that Buffy's not. And what do we get when he comes here? No words. Because why? No power. He has no power here. Those outside things, they don't have as much power with Buffy because she knows who she is. She's decided, and she is powerful for that. And how appropriate is that in a season, like I say, about identity, that we have our titular character, the Slayer here, Buffy, coming to this place full circle now as this journey she's gone on into this young woman who is secure in herself, powerful in her identity, and choosing her path and what she wants for herself, right? And this feels like a finale for the season we've had, and a perfect finale for that, in all of the ways that I think it's explored each individual person's identity, also the wider spectrum of society and how that can affect each individual character too. This episode is so layered, and there is very much a reason that I have got 2 hours and 44 minutes of footage to edit through from a 39 so far minute episode. Beautiful. Oh, mate. Oh, God. Hello. Try again. Whoa, fanny punch. Sorry.
It's over. We don't do this anymore.
It's over. We don't do this anymore. Mindlessly fight. Because that's what this first Slayer is doing. We don't mindlessly fight. We choose. Is what Buffy, I feel like, is saying. Anya? Oh, is this the apartment? No. Okay. Oh, God. Roll in your eyes.
Are you quite finished? It's over, okay?
Not even entertaining.
I'm going to ignore you, and you're going to go away. Gonna have to get over the whole primal power thing.
There you go. I'm gonna ignore you, and you're gonna go away. Shrugging off the perceived power of what? The thing she's supposed to be, right? And that's what we've seen with Xander, with Willow, with Giles. Xander's supposed to be this soldier, this man, this manly man. Willow supposed to be this good girl that chooses a nice boy, not a girl. Giles supposed to find some power in this world for himself to be respectable. Buffy, as the Slayer, is supposed to be this weapon, this fighting machine and nothing else. Supposed to.
Over, okay?
It's over.
Ignore you, and you're going to go away.
Yeah. Buffy here is shrugging off the thing that she's supposed to be, told that she's supposed to be, all the way through her life. Because like I say, she's the only one that's found her individuality, truly. Xander, Giles, Willow, they're getting there, they're making progress, but as we see, they still aren't at this point that Buffy is at. Perhaps after this they'll be closer. But that's why Buffy's succeeding and the other three didn't. This is the power. This is the power they needed to find. Power in themselves. What does that mean? In that these things that they've been told they're supposed to be isn't something they should be listening to. Because ultimately that goes nowhere when you're trying to sit down and figure out who you actually are. Buffy knows, at least at this point to a degree, that is affording her ultimate power over this thing that's trying to tell her what she should be. Beautiful. And like I say, full circle, what a beautiful journey she's been on in this season 4 to get to this point. And what after season 3 and cutting herself off from the Watchers and going through and finding, herself. And in this finale, compare as she broke from the Watchers and here. And that journey from there to there is awesome.
You're not the source of me.
You are.
Also, in terms of hair care, you really want to say, what kind of impression am I making in the workplace? Because...
Oh, slight racist undertones, but hey, early 2000s, what can you do?
The first Slayer.
Dumb.
Not big with the socialization.
Well, that makes sense. In the intonation of the words, I, talked about faith. All Slayers, what was it? There was a wording that makes sense as to why they summoned the first Slayer, right? Or whatever happened this episode.
Invoking the essence of the Slayer's power was an affront to the source of that power.
Yeah.
You could have brought that up to us before we did it.
I did. I said there could be dire consequences.
Yeah.
I'm guessing I missed some fun.
The spirit of the first Slayer tried to kill us in our dreams.
Pretty cool.
Oh, you want some hot chocolate?
Yes. Yes, what choice? Buffy's mom.
Help me carry.
Yes, Buffy's mom.
Yep.
You alright?
Yeah,
Well done, Buff.
You seem a bit...
a little.
What a journey.
First Slayer.
You keep your Slayer friends out of my dreams.
She's not good for the sleeping.
What have we learned?
At least you all didn't dream about that guy with the cheese.
Oh,
I don't know where the hell that came from.
for real, but I love him. I really do, and I will lament if we never see Ian again.
You think you know what's to come?
Yeah.
What you are? You haven't even begun.
Yeah, I mean, I paid attention to that line the first time you said it. The fact that it's being repeated, I wonder.
What you are?
What is she?
You haven't even begun.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what a leviathan of a finale. But I don't think, God, what a brave move to do this episode, you know, in the early 2000s as a finale for a show that's super successful. You have Adam and then you have this. That's so brave. That's such a bold move. I love it. I think it's beautiful. I think for the overarching theme of season 4, I think it's so appropriate for all of the reasons that I've been talking about. I think it's such a beautiful footnote finish for everything we've been going for this season and the journey of all of these characters. And I think almost it's very much a bridge. It's very much an end to season 4, but it's very much a bridge of like, what does the future hold, which I also think is so appropriate for this idea of growing up, because it never stops, right? That's the point, and that's the kind of the place we've got into, I think, as we've gone on this journey this season. And I think it's really appropriate that we have these notes of, with the 3, Xander, Willow, Giles. They're not quite there yet. They're making some progress and they're coming to realizations, and there's still a journey to go, and that's good and that's fair, and I'm looking forward to that. Buffy not so much, but at the same time, still places to go, still places to grow, right? And still things to find out about the Slayer. Absolutely, fair enough. I think at the same time, as much as I say, you know, wow, God, so brave, so bold to kind of go with something so unconventional, I think, as a finale. On the one hand, but on the other hand, I feel like season 1, 2, 3, we've had a big bad of like, you are a bad person, you are a bad demon, whatever. We need to vanquish you. Quite conventional, right? And I think I was asking the question, I think during the season 3 finale, the mayor, what can you do now? How are we going to array a challenge at this Slayer and the team that are so competent in what they do? And I think attacking them at the core, the root of them, their identity, is such an appropriate choice. And I think season 3 me watching, you know, that finale, if I'd have known this is where it was going to go, I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes absolute sense. I'm so happy that that is where they went with it. And I am. I think everything, all of the notes that I was kind of hitting on in season 3 and my wishes, I think have been fulfilled by this and this season. I know, as I was kind of getting into, I think sometimes people do kind of get to a place where, like, I appreciate that during this show and you know, the people that have loved this show and are fans of this show coming to watch these videos, I know that people have, like, you know, preconceived notions of how the fan base takes it, what's generally. I know that season 4, I've become very aware that a lot of people don't particularly like season 4 or see it perhaps as one of their lesser liked seasons, even if they do like it. And I know early on I became very aware of it as I was kind of approaching season 4, but there's never really, and I think sometimes people kind of prescribe that idea onto me because I've noticed as I've gone through season 4, early season 4, I've kind of said, if I've had any note of any criticism, whatever it might be, or something being slow, people have been like, stick with it, I know. And it's like, I'm not, you know, I'm talking about it because I do want to just kind of say, like, when I was saying that stuff at the start of the season, that wasn't bad, you know, something unconventional I don't think is bad by any means. I've thoroughly enjoyed the season. I think it did take a little bit longer to kind of get into the place that it was trying to go. I don't know how long it took me to start talking about identity and for the season to really kind of be diving into the meat of that. But I think the slow build to that was so appropriate to make it, to sell it, right? So I would just counsel people, to, you know, I know there was worries, you know, this kind of thing of like, just stick with it, it's going to be fine. It's like, relax. I'm going to go into every single episode of this show and any show that I do with an open mind. I'm not going to, you know, go in with any preconceived notions. I'm going to obviously see what people think of various seasons as we go, but just so you know, it's all going to be chill. It's all going to be fine. And I think, like I say, sorry, I think that season 4's maybe got a bit of a hard rap. Just from what I've gathered from the fan base, I don't think I would put this over like season 1. Sorry, I'm not going to rank them all. I think that's largely arbitrary. That's not to, you know, take away from anyone who does rank that. You know, there's value to that and it's fun to do. I just don't. Maybe I will when I finish the whole thing. But the only reason I mention it now is because I think that season 4 is actually a really strong season. I think even Adam was only really a little bit of a wayward big bad for like an episode or two. Because I think when I started talking about it and him being a little bit out of place after the Maggie thing, we had the Faith arc. And then after the Faith arc, it got into a place where Adam and his inclusion really became obvious in terms of how he connected to identity, the theme of identity, and how he was complementing that, the season. As we came from the beginning, he was like, his character and his representation was picking up all of those threads. And I think the show did really good things with him in the representation of in what they were going for in terms of what he represented and why. And then obviously into this episode 2, I just think this is very much a season that needs the entire, like all of the pieces of the jigsaw to kind of make sense and to know where it's going. Sorry, that's not to like push back on anybody, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just a guy with an opinion on the show. Your opinion, if it's different, isn't wrong by any means. Everyone's got their own opinion. I guess just for my, you know, 2 cents, I think this show has gone from strength to strength to strength, and I think I was echoing some of that as I came off season 3, talking about if they just do the same thing in season 4, build to a big bad, and then, you know, same sort of formula, there would be an element of me that's a little bored by that. And I think by doing what they've done in season 4 was so important, actually, to keep that fresh and to usher us into season 5, looking forward to it with the kind of teasers this episode of perhaps where we're going. Anyway, I am going to let you know, because I need you to know for my own sanity. This is probably the most intense an edit has been. This is a 43-minute video, 44-minute episode. I have 3 hours. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I don't intend to, man. Anyway, as always, early access down below if you can't wait for the next. We're going to be going on to the Angel finale next week, and then we'll be on to season 5 and season 2 of the respective shows. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. Like the video, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Please do consider giving the video a hype if you have one available. But as always, thank you so much to my patrons, my YouTube members. Genuinely, just thank you for your support. I can't do this in the way that I do full time and give the time that I do to these videos without your support. So genuinely, you make the channel happen. Thank you. That was another Slayer Saturdays. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next time.